Mm-hmm.
I think what I want to have is I like the idea of tiny epic business, small businesses that do cool stuff, and then to have a big simple life. So I want to have I want to have almost the opposites. I used to think I wanted a kind of small life supporting a big complicated business, but now I want a tiny epic business and a big simple life.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to yet another cracking edition of The Threshold. And my name is Matt Brown. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, Brent, Wi-Fi's down, Spilkin, and Richard Caps Lock Mulholland. Boys, welcome back to the show.
Nice to be here.
Hello, Matt. The reluctant adult. Rich, what is that about?
You know what? I was trying to get. I just saw that Riverside had a setting, and you could add a title. And I thought, and I had to think of a title offhand. And I thought, reluctant adult is kind of me to a core. Like I enjoy still being white.
That's what I want to talk about today. That's pretty much what I want to talk about. Just being the reluctant adult and being a child a little bit every once in a while, and the value of that. Anyway, how are you, man?
I love that because we don't spend enough time like that, right? Adulting is effort.
This is a playful environment, right? This is us, talking shit and having fun.
Totally.
So let's start with a 2-minute update. Richard, let's go. What's happened the last 2 weeks?
My wife turned 40. We had a lot of family and friends visiting. It was incredible to have. It's really nice. You know, the one advantage of moving away is when people come to visit you. It's really nice to get to share where you live with people that haven't been there yet, and that was a very cup filling engagement. There was about 50 people here, and it was just really, really nice at the party, and lots of people visiting. My parents, all their children, all their grandchildren, which is pretty cool, right? Like, and it was very, very nice. So that was the most dominant part of the last few weeks. Was just I really, really overflowed on family time in the best kind of way.
Well, Rich, I mean, just on the back of that, that's amazing because generally what tends to happen, it's only weddings and funerals where you get the whole family together, unfortunately, is often so to have it around a birthday, especially when you guys are living in, Tehelangon Island, that's just me knocking where you live because I'm jealous, but is a special thing, I think. You don't get those opportunities very often where the core family actually come together. Certainly not in my family.
Yeah, I think families should... so the last time we did was 2019. Look, we were together as a group a lot, actually, when I was in South Africa. But the last time we traveled together was 2019 for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And we went to Skerries, a little town in Ireland where they got married and or had their honeymoon. And it was really, really nice. And I think we do need to find more reasons to meet up as families. And I mean, it's a crime that we use funerals as the core family gravity.
Well, I mean, part of my update, Matt, was I did this interesting car rally over the weekend. But leading back onto this piece is that we went through all these little towns in the Karoo. And at the center of all these towns are these old churches. And on Sunday morning, we left Oudtshoorn and we're having coffee. And we saw someone opening up this church next door, the coffee shop. So we actually walked into the church, the 4 heathens. But what's interesting is that the guy who's opening it is the guy that's going to do the sermon, or is the preacher, whatever the correct term is. But he says that there's still a huge community of people who come to church on a Sunday morning, and this is where you meet the community. And it goes back to the religious practice and those activities that bring people together. So weddings do, funerals do, birthdays do, those sort of things. But I think that, I would say this loosely, and people may argue, but I would imagine that religion has deteriorated unbelievably in the Western civilization of the last 50 years. And some of the value of we come together, we actually forced to engage has gone. And it's something that I was like, it's quite impressive that everyone knows everyone in these little towns. And at least once a week, you sit next door to them and have a chat and have a cup of tea afterwards and then go do your thing. There's massive value in that. And I feel like it's missing to some degree in my life, and I'm sure in a lot of people's lives.
Well, it's a way to scale culture, right? I mean, it's the ritual of that's how religion scaled, basically, was Sunday church. So every
ritual,
Sunday,
I think it's a good word that you added there.
What did I add?
Yeah. Well, ritual. You said ritual as well.
Ritual.
And those little rituals and things add a lot of value.
Yes, agree. My quick 2-minute update is I'm getting crazy traction with my show. And as you know, I've been looking to offload the business and that because I'm not really in love with it, but I'm hating the process. And I'm just I'm actually keen to just use my show now and kind of do events and speaking and, this kind of stuff. And anyway, but yeah, I'm excited for the first time in quite some time. So I'm almost kind of like, let's just kill the acquisition so I can focus 100% of my time on on this new sort of vision that I have for my lifestyle and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so that's my 2-minute update.
Yeah, it's good, right? Once your vision of your victory condition changes, a lot of the things downstream can, but often we don't bother. So we change what we want, but we don't change what we're currently doing.
Yeah. And you have to change something, right? You can't just be, stuck inside the bottle all day, every day, and not actually make the choice.
We've all met, and you've met a fortune of entrepreneurs. I suppose, Matt, you probably met more than most of us have combined. And what you do realize is that the guys that really do well, a lot of them actually love the work. It's not hard work for them. It's something they enjoy doing, and they're very lucky if they have those kind of careers or those jobs. But as soon as it becomes work, and it's laborious and you dread going to it, you're actually, in my opinion, less likely to be successful because it's you resent the business, you resent getting up. It's a grudge purchase to get up and do the work. Where if it's the path of I love this kind of shit, I'm good at it, I get a kick out of it, I want to do more of it, you're probably more likely to be successful. And successful doesn't mean yachts and multi-billion dollars. It's just successful in I enjoy my day and I'm making enough to pay for the kids' education, whatever it is that you got to cover. And that is a success, in my opinion. If you can find happiness and live a good life and cover those expenses, I think you're probably more successful than a lot of very rich, successful people. So
yeah,
it is,
and I think
go where you're happy, eh?
Yeah, well, this is Rich said it best ages ago. He was like, well, when I was in my 30s, and Rich, you can tell me if I misspeak here, but you were like, when I was in my 30s, I wanted to be a billionaire. When I was in my 40s, I realized I probably wouldn't be. And then when I was in my 50s, I just stopped giving a fuck. So it's kind of that same story arc, for me.
Yeah, and it's not even that, it's not even a cop-out. It's that genuinely you just start caring about different things. And I genuinely look forward to every single day. At 4:30 every day, I'm thinking, I can go home and see my wife. And then I have to force myself to hang around for another, and then eventually, more often than not, I just don't. And I'll go home and I'll spend time with, my wife. We'll hang out, we'll do shit. And I would rather do that than work harder. Mm-hmm. I think what I want to have is, I like the idea of tiny epic business, small businesses that do cool stuff. And then to have a big, simple life. So I want to have almost the opposites. I used to think I wanted a kind of small life supporting a big, complicated business. But now I want a tiny, epic business and a big, simple life. I want to feel like I'm enjoying it more. And I think that's what has changed for me.
Well, yeah. I think, Rich, before we jumped on the call, I'll just give you the backstory. So about 6 months ago, I got a friend who lives in Somerset West who came across this rally event on Facebook and was like, this could be fun. Let's do it. So he's got a 12-year-old 2-door Jag. We have another friend who has a basically identical Jag. It's 2 guys per car. So we sign up for the 4 of us and it's 3 days, 1,200 Ks, all the mountain passes through the Karoo. Spectacular. But there were a couple of moments where the simplicity of it all, i.e. standing in a valley, looking at the sun come over the hill and the beautiful orange light and it's very, very simple. It was hugely gratifying and like I joked to my wife, it was filling my soul. And she goes, "You have no soul." I was like, "You're right." But the fact is that I'm starting to appreciate some of the simple things, like a cup of coffee in the Karoo, watching the sunrise, or watching the water come down the mountain, the waterfall for a long time, or meeting random people in small towns and having a bullshit conversation. I'm seeking more of that, and you have to put yourself in those situations to experience that, and it doesn't cost money. It's not about, yes, we paid for the tour, but anyone can get in their car or motorbike and go and do that and experience it. So the things that I'm starting to get real satisfaction are not the things of the things. It's not the things. It's definitely the experiences, and specifically sharing it with other people who are in a similar state of mind. And because we were all like, I was probably one of the younger guys in the group, one of the one guy's pushing 60. The conversation was civil. It was like, we appreciate that what we're doing and where we are. And then I get to drive like a 5-liter V8 supercharged Jag through the most spectacular valleys I've ever been in my life. I'm like, God, like this is a blessing. I'm like genuinely privileged to be able to do this, even though it's not my vehicle. And it's so enriching to do these things and step away from the day-to-day grind. And I found that the older I get, the more I want it and the more valuable it is. And actually the less expensive these things are becoming to me. And I realized that I don't need the $1 billion business to do this. When you're young, you think you need all the cash to experience the world. You just don't. And maybe that's just an age thing, or maybe it's just where I'm in my life. But I'd love to hear your thoughts around that, whether you've had similar experiences. And Matt, I'm guessing, bikes in Colorado gives you a lot of that as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think when you make the choice to shift like what Rich was basically describing was you just make new choices or different choices. And I think it's important because I think often if you spend your entire life chasing this achievement goal, right? This victory condition of I've got to have, $10 million or $50 million or $1 billion or whatever. And if you never reach it, and then eventually one day you're like, fuck, what have I done with my life? I've actually been spending all my time in the pursuit of something that I haven't reached. And even worse, if you reach it, then you realize that actually I'm actually not fulfilled having even reached that goal. Like I find a lot of guys who sell companies actually wind up in that space. And I don't know where it comes from. And I think it's from like society, maybe. I think in my personal circumstance, maybe it's got a little bit of fuck you motivation to do with my father and that, but it's also stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense when I look back at it. Like if I was 26, I'd be like, okay, cool, dude, I get it. But I'm not. I'm like 46. And so I think when you have that experience, quote unquote, and you look back on those 20 years, it's like, well, it's the perspective. I've been doing it for 20 years. Where are you? You know what I mean? How has your life changed? What responsibilities do you now have? Like when you're 26, you don't have kids, you don't have a wife. Now I have kids and a wife, right? And so now it's about, well, now things changed. Now it's like, well, how can I be more present as a father? How can I provide the most financial independence, but without killing myself in the process of doing that? Do you see what I mean? And it's also interesting because I think when you start making those changes, doors start to open. Like there's this, I'm actually going to Amsterdam to do a media event for a technology company that does pricing with AI and what have you. But that all came through my show. Last month, we booked 170 pre-interviews with people who wanting to come on the show. And it's not work. You know what I mean? Like it's easy for me to pitch up and do this kind of stuff. And I'm just already starting to see that doors are starting to open, and it's all because of my own sort of mindset around what am I trying to do with my time, and for what's the purpose behind all of that stuff. And also the other thing to say is that I could probably make more money doing the show, right, and doing Matt Brown than I probably would doing AI products and manage, technology services and all this kind of shit. Because I mean, it's like they're hardly comparable.
Matt,
and
did
so,
you see?
so I'm excited, like I said,
I don't know if you saw, but whether you love him or not is a different conversation. But Scott Galloway did a talk on his platform around how much money his 2 podcasts produce: the Pivot podcast with Karoo Swisher and his podcast. Okay, and I get the fact that it isn't the top, the top 10, 50 global podcasts. I get the fact that we're looking at the top percentile. But we are talking about millions and millions of dollars every year in profits in a business that he loves to do, right? Like it's a fun thing to do, get to meet cool people. You can talk shit and learn stuff and make a lot of money. Now I get the fact that's the top, but it's a thing where I always compared myself to Tony Robbins. If Tony Robbins was making $50 million and that was the top of business coaching, I knew I'd never be Tony Robbins. But anywhere between me and Tony Robbins is a very healthy like amount of money to be made. So if those are the guys that are making, $10, $15 million a year on podcasting, if you can get this thing to make $1 million a year in podcasting, good days, right?
Yeah, but imagine Matt also did you know how I run Story to Stage, right? Which is a professional speaking training program. Imagine Matt ran a program, not for how to build a podcast, but how to get better guests, how to get better. So he ran a program for podcast hosts on how to raise a profile, how to get these types of things. And that could be something, done with you program that people sign up to and run. So there is an ecosystem that exists, because that's what I saw with Galloway. There's a whole bunch of stuff that exists around the podcast itself. And there's so much for it there. I think there's a definite business.
Is that if the podcast business is the gold mine, it's the selling the shovels thing, right? It's that analogy, is that you can support that industry and make a lot of money as well. You don't have to be the gold digger. You can be selling supplementary services to it. So if the industry is that big and that buoyant, there's lots of money to be made around it for sure.
Yeah, like we're trying to build a relevance academy and we got first nice deal signed for it, and real kind of reposition missing link in this space. And there is a concern that, I am the face of this relevance academy, but I'm also the face of Story to Stage, which is speaking business. But because the one is the domain delivery vehicle, so, I am a speaker that speaks about relevance. Therefore, I could speak about relevance or speaking. And that's kind of where Matt can get across. But the nice thing with Matt is that it says the same, he speaks in the domain of business podcasts for entrepreneurs. And so if you're an entrepreneur who wants to run a podcast, Matt's not going to go through the technical details and things like this. He might, but the real thing is, how do I get better guests? How do I do this? How do I schedule it? That could be a business. And then you could just be the rest of the actual podcast business. Bear in mind, Matt might hate the idea of this. I'm just saying that there's a lot he could focus on just on the Matt Brown show. And everything started, I would argue, with the Matt Brown show. It was 100%. Digital Kung Fu, but everything has just come off this. All the signs of Matt's last 15 years point back to the Matt Brown show.
Yeah, it's true. And that's why I want to double down on it. I mean, I kind of regret wasting the last 3 years here in the States digging around. Hey?
It paid for your life. It paid for your beautiful big truck and your motorcycle and your family moving across the world. Like,
yeah,
there's no regrets.
I know, but I still regret it.
Yeah.
I guess I would have been a much happier person.
I could have been Chris Williamson, for example.
I would have been huge here in the US. Huge. Oh, that's funny.
So
Brent,
I'm just curious. Do either of you have, outside of your trip to Amsterdam, do either of you have any sort of holidays planned, like actual meaningful breaks?
Yes, there's Labor Day weekend here. It's the end of August. So we're going out. I'm hiring for my huge truck. I bought a cool thing for it to tow, which is this massive motorhome. So we're going to go and put the kids and family into an RV and drive out to a place called Kebler Corner. It's like 5.5 hours from here. It's super pretty. And then there's a whole bunch of mates going. So spend 4 days there on the river. It'll be badass.
I've got a retreat in Victoria, British Columbia in 2 weeks, or I leave in fact next week, Thursday. And then I'm doing a talk there. Then I'm flying down to Seattle for a couple of days, doing a talk there. Then down to Cape Town for a week. I've got a talk there. And then we're doing some Too Many Robot strategy stuff. And then I go straight back to Chicago. I'm doing a talk for Stripe, the payments company there, and then flying back home. But other than the few extra days in South Africa, there's no real holiday. And in truth, this year, my family is actually coming back to us on Christmas. So we're probably not doing a holiday. But right now, being at home in a new country feels like we're really happy to staycation. Jazz actually found a little place. Now, the whole island, you can drive, all the way south in 45 minutes, all the way north in 45 minutes. But Jazz found a nice little place with like yurts, those little cabins on the island. So we're not even going far. We're literally driving like 30 minutes from our house and going to stay in little yurts and cabins with spa baths next to them and stuff. And we're like, fuck it. Like, we actually like being here.
That's cool.
Very cool.
You guys need to come visit.
Well, I might actually.
Amazing. When's your trip?
Not I can't give you a date yet, but I'm doing a book for a CEO in London.
Oh, cool.
So that should be done if I come. So basically October. So that would probably be the window. And then my sister's out in Winchester, so I'm gonna make a plan to come see her. So I'm busy trying to talk to this guy and say, listen, dude, you're only going to launch a book once, in your case. Let's do a live event, get your whole business team there, blah blah blah, at your offices, da da da. So yeah, so if that happens,
Evans
then
on
I'll
stage for a new
definitely
speaking program called Page to Stage. So we turn him
page
into a
to stage.
speaker on the back of his book.
There you go, perfect.
Yeah, I see that. Look at us doing deals on the show. Guys,
There's a little ecosystem shit going on there.
5 minutes ago, we were talking about it's not just business; it's about growing a better life. Now we're
Dude, I actually think that's a good.
Nothing.
That's actually a very good idea. Hey, pay it from page to the stage.
Yeah, we
Because
want to
there's so
do
many guys.
variations. That's what we work on with Greg Hickman's alt agency at the moment. That was a company we worked with to originally develop Story to Stage. And we want to do 3 tiers of it in Story to Stage, but we want to have slightly specialized areas. The one is Story to Stage, that's general public speaking. The one is Stadium to Stage, which is sports people. And then the other one is Page to Stage, which is authors. Their curated content will be different, helping them build out the book and things like that, take out and build their talks. But the central Q&A of getting into public speaking and how to grow will be collective. So the nice thing is we create 3 different syllabus to get 3 different groups of people who want to be speakers, but the shared time is still done with the same calls. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, that's cool because I've got quite a few potential clients for you because I've got another one. He's a CEO of Haiku. Remember that company we were looking at now?
Yeah.
So I'm helping him with his reputation and stuff like that. And one of the things that he wants to do is speaking. So maybe there's a thing we can do there as well.
And again, for fear of I don't want this to sound like somebody listening is joining a meeting or even a sales pitch. We can talk about this, but talk about the threshold. We're on the threshold of a world where people's attention is lower than ever before. The add effects using hand gestures. Oh, that's new. Okay, I didn't know I could do that. I just got a pop-up window. But the authority is harder to get than ever before, and the biggest thing is authenticity. People don't believe anything is real. But if you can get up on a stage and, when I'm traveling to Chicago to do that talk, I'm doing 2 talks there for this group, right? So they'll be giving me 2 hours of attention. I will have assumed authority given the fact that they flew me halfway around the world in order to speak to them. And I have absolute authenticity. Everybody in the room believes it. I know this sounds stupid to say this, but everybody believes that I'm there. Everyone believes that I'm on stage, whereas we don't really believe anything you can see on video or in writing or in things like that anymore. Anyway, this is a bit of my high horse, but I think that people should really, really be leaning towards anything in which they can show up live as a human will add more value.
Well, I was listening to, I flew back on Sunday night, listening to a podcast, and they were talking about the value of live music. There's a guy called Rick Beata on YouTube who does all this music stuff. I've listened to him since COVID. And he was just talking about, for a long time, it was the CD or the LP or the tape. Then it was streaming, and that changed, like the way we think about music completely and songs and singles, less bands, more produced. But what he's saying is that over that period, like rock bands deteriorated, live stadiums deteriorated, the amount of big stadium shows weren't as many, but he's seeing an uptick of that. And I think it's because we're tired of watching stuff online and listening to it in our ears and stuff. And we actually not craving the experience of rubbing up against other sweaty people and jumping up and down and living the moment. And he was saying that he can see that stadiums are being sold out quicker at a higher price, and there are more of these events happening everywhere. And that's interesting because it just means that there's a cultural change for people wanting to go back to a stadium, where for a period of time, whether it was COVID or technology, whatever that is, people were a little bit more hesitant. I'm super amped to hear that because I just think about some of the best nights of my life were jumping up and down as a kid, listening to Metallica or Foo Fighters, whoever it was, right? So I think that, Rich, I think you're right. There's a sense of that becoming a real thing. People want that real experience as opposed to I can watch it online. And it's not an authority thing, but I think there's a different sense you get from watching you on stage versus watching you talk on YouTube. And I don't know what that is, but there's something's turning.
There's scarcity, right? So there's in a live event, there's a scarcity into it. I can watch a video of anybody online, and anybody can, and it's always available. Whereas that night in that city is that you're part of a very small, intimate group of humans who are there. And I think you're right, though. I think it does extend to anything live. Is that I think it's John. He talks about IRL being the currency of the future. He did a talk with me for Sanlam, and that was one of the things he said, is that in real life is one of the most important things. Yeah. Matt is playing with titles while we're working on this.
Matt, I want you to repeat back what Richard just said, because you weren't listening. I know you.
Yeah, okay. He was. You did a talk with John at Sunlam, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, I got this.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, in real life. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
But it is cool. Like, maybe Riverside shouldn't tell you about new features while you're speaking. We're all like, oh, toys, distraction. Brent, let's come back to this reluctant adult thing you said, because we didn't really get there. And you said, I wanted to talk about reluctant adult. Something to do with your weekend.
Well, the fact is that as much... So a few things here. I'm not a big drinker. I think I had a couple of beers over the weekend. It wasn't a big thing, right? But having 1 or 2 beers is actually it's actually more symbolic of I can relax. I don't have the responsibilities to be able to drink. That's actually what it signals to me. It's that like, we sat at this little restaurant in the sun. I had 2 beers sitting there. Everyone was like, Spilly, are you okay? I'm like, I am perfect. It's quiet. I'm in the sun. I'm enjoying this. Like, there's no need to do anything. The fact that I have a beer in my hand means I don't have any responsibilities. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to wipe my kid's ass. Like, nothing. There's no responsibilities. That's the trigger for me. But the thing which is interesting to me, so it's this thing of like regressing from adulthood, which is the responsibilities that comes with being an adult. But the reluctant adult here is that actually the decisions I'm making as an adult should be to be more of a child, to enjoy more of the time. Like, there were 2 or 3 moments on the weekend where, you know, when you're in school and you giggle and you can't stop giggling to a point where it's actually embarrassing. And I sat at the table covering my face because I couldn't look up at them looking at me giggling. Those are rare moments, right? But it's an adult choice to put yourself into those situations where you can do that. So,
unpopular opinion, they happen more in unigender environments. So a group of girls together, group of guys together, I think your giggle quotient goes higher.
There's no doubt about it, right? And it's because of what you can say and how you can say it, and dropping the guard. And also, when you spend more than 24 hours with a group of people, what tends to happen is that you become more comfortable and you lower that guard. If it's just an hour, you don't get to fully relax and fully, embrace it. So extended periods of time, people, is really interesting. And also what's also interesting is that of the 4 of us, I knew 3 people, 2 of them really well. The one guy, so of the 4 of us, I obviously know myself, but the third guy I'd never met. So there was this unknown entity.
But it becomes easier because of the joint.
Completely. And the trust that I know these 2 people well, they're good value, I like them, they make me laugh, they vouch for this third person. Immediately there was this acceptance, both ways, I'm guessing, right? And I think that's the flawed human Matt Brown. But I think what's interesting is that also allowing yourself to drop your guard with relative strangers is also quite relaxing. There's something very
what made it work
about.
Was that there's a trust of the other people that curated the strangers. So you were somebody's stranger and somebody was your stranger. But because of the trust of the other 2 people, you're kind of in good shape. Friday night, I went out to dinner with two of my good friends on the island. This is the first time they've met. So we did a bit of a boys' night. Both of their wives were actually in South Africa traveling separately. So we went out to dinner, and that instant dynamic happened. And there's a term in EO that gets used a lot called instamacy. And the reason I think intimacy can be easier in a group is like instant intimacy in a group of guys is that there's a immediate leveling of the playing field. So let's say we're all there with couples and all of us were at a dinner with all of our partners. There's one human being in every group who's your highest priority and everybody else is a much lower priority. So there is a different dynamic of behavior. Whereas when you're just with a group of dudes or they're just with a group of girls, first of all, there's nobody trying to impress in certain ways. Guards go down because you can be yourself. Humans are naturally less themselves when they're in front of the gender that they are attracted to. I think that, and I'd be curious, I'd actually love to have this chat. I've got some good gay friends. I would love to have a chat to them about this, to say, how does that dynamic play out for them? Is there a change? Like let's say, so we've got friends here, Liam and William. Do they, when they want to do a boys' night, do they want to split? So they couldn't both go on a boys' night. Would you want to say, do you understand? Because I don't think it's just about the gender. I think it's about the couple. Yeah. So should Liam go with his boys on a boys' night and William go with his boys on a boys' night?
Yeah, be interesting. I had a couple of...
Sorry, Matt, to cut you off. Is that the...
Not that sorry.
Not that sorry. You guys... Middle name, sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead, friend. Yeah.
But the other thing, which is interesting, is that the longer you have a friendship for, the more shared experiences you have, the more you can reflect and giggle on those events.
Yeah, okay? It's a bigger surface area.
So the weird thing is, like, now I've added one more weekend to the pot of experiences, and the next time we'll do it, we'll laugh about this thing. So it gets richer and richer with time. And actually what happens is that, and maybe this is why as you get older, you have fewer friends, you realize there's massive invested value in long-term friendships, and you don't want to go rebuild that. It's very hard to rebuild that experience because you can slot in and laugh and have fun because of all the shared experiences. And it's the little things, Rich, where you know, the guys will make one little comment and you know what that comment was about 10 years ago, where you were, and that comment will break you. Like, that's the thing that pushes you over the edge. It's difficult to replicate that with new people quickly.
Okay, I'm going to hang up long form because I want to go over to Matt and we're going to come back to that. And Brent, you got to work on your title.
Yeah. So I had do you guys remember Jason Levine?
Yes.
And he did that gazelles, unicorns, and leapfrogs reports on the state of startups in South Africa, years ago. So anyway, so he's gay, and his partner Colin, they've moved to Florida. So they were actually here in Denver last weekend. 2 weekends ago. And so they came around to the house for like just to hang out and stuff. So to the point that you guys, hey,
did you have a bride?
Yeah, no, we didn't have a bribery. We had a sushi.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, get on.
Get on. Okay, lekker, man. So anyway, so Jason and I did this trip on, it was called the Startup Train. So you had all these startups and investors, and you went from Johannesburg to Cape Town. Worst thing ever. Like, do not catch a train across South Africa. It's delayed and was a total loss. Anyway, but we had this shared experience. But Colin, his partner, I didn't really know. Like, I'd met him like maybe a handful of times, and that was like years ago. So anyway, so we're here and what have you, and this whole, like, you know, we're talking about, the startup train, this and that. And it was exactly the same thing. But the longer we, you know, because so Jason and I had the shared experience, but with Colin, the longer, you know, he was here at the house, the more we were talking about, like, he just lost his dog, I've got a puppy and this kind of thing. And so then you start to like connect. And so the longer the longer we were with each other, and it turned out to be an awesome evening. So like now, next time I see him, I have that shared experience that he was here with the house, you know what I mean? And we're, you know, and so yeah, it's I know what you guys are saying for sure.
So I think long form is so important. There's two reasons for it. I've actually realized now. So now when I go back to Cape Town, I stay with my parents. I lived right the corner from my parents for years, and we'd see each other, you know, every other week. But actually, we all collectively believe that I spend more meaningful time with them by far since I left the country than I did when I lived down the road from them. And the reason is you go and you stay at their house for 2 or 3 days. And what happens, and why I think why having, you know, if you have one weekend away with a group of people or spend a full day with somebody, because the first 30 minutes or 45 minutes of any interaction with anybody is a recalibration, reconnecting, and it's creating that commonplace. So it's getting everybody calibrated again into the shared space. And it might be introducing people, it might be catching up on things like that. So you don't get into the good shit until the second half of the evening. But when you spend a weekend with somebody, your good shit allowance is massive. And so, Matt, even that day that you spent with the partner, that was a meaningful amount of time that you guys got to spend. And if you think about it, if you actually think about like if you'd had like 5 other 1-hour dinners or lunches with the partner before, you've kind of caught up. And yes, it's not multiple different experiences, but I think you can go deeper. And I think that this is the first time I've ever properly run this through my head when Brent said it. But I really do think that we're under-indexed on long-form interactions with people that matter. And we should try find ways to say, this person is meaningful. How can I spend a day with them? Go on a big, long hike. Like anything that involves meaningful amount of time. And I think that you can probably, if you have friends you don't see often, you can probably catch up, a lot of caught time in a weekend together. And also it'll earmark you the friends that, because there's some friends that I only see every few years, and all every year is an update, a catch up. And those aren't strong friendships. You need to get beyond the catch up to get to the good stuff. Thoughts?
Yeah. It's less meaningful connections, not as many. Do you know what I mean? Like this frequent rubbish that you have on social media. I'm honestly not a big fan of social media for this exact reason. And it's interesting now that I'm thinking about where I want to go as an entrepreneur, in that so much business happens offline, and people kind of have bought into this paradigm that all business happens online. Like you must have 1 million followers, and you must have, this huge community, and you must get all your leads from social media and so forth. And yes, this, to some extent that's true, but in the large majority of us, like, we don't do that. So we're not very successful at that. And it's interesting if you look at the technology space, just how much the B2B event space is like active. It's like all that business happens offline. It's like, it's not happening online at all. It's just, we do face-to-face business, but I'm only going to like 1 event a quarter, not an event a week, or 2 events a year. And I do all my business that way. I mean, one of the guys I ride with, Stevie G, crazy guy.
You mentioned him before.
Yes,
how could you forget Stevie G?
Stevie G, my man. That guy's a little legend. But we digress. So he's in the gemstone business, right? So I said to him, "Yeah, man, tell me about your business, blah, blah, blah." He makes all his money in the month of February for the year. And then he doesn't really work.
Fuck that guy.
But he does it at a conference. So he goes to the world's biggest gemstone cutting conference. He makes all his network connections there, all of his his sort of pipeline and money and that kind of stuff. He sells at the show and that. And then he basically says, well, I get to sail my boat around the Caribbean.
More power to him.
In the winter. Hey?
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, isn't that fucking awesome? No social media. He's not very good with people. He would be terrible putting out content. He just pisses people off. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like there's a way to do things where it's this less is more, and when you do the less, you get more out of it. It's kind of the.
I used to always call it less to the power of more.
Yeah,
and I still always think that, but Howard Mann has a better term for it. He actually wrote a book with the title, it's called Fewer Better. And fewer better as a mantra is really fucking good, right? Fewer better, almost everything. Fewer better clients, fewer better friends, fewer better interactions, fewer better social media posts, fewer better. There's almost nothing that fewer better is not right for.
Can I just go back?
I love it, Brent. I just saw your title.
The thing I want to say to you was going back to the long format relationship thing. There's also 2 parts to this. So there's the 2 people, the parties that are involved in spending time together over a longer period of time. But also what I found is that there are certain friends that we will do the same event on a regular basis. We'll go to the same coffee shop and we'll do the same hour, and that works. Like it's slot in. We don't want to. But then I have other friends, like the one guy I went away with on the weekend. We've done a lot of trips together. So what's interesting around that is that our relationship is built around the 2 of us in new environments to both of us. It's the new shared experience as opposed to the same shared experience over and over. And it works better where we plan that to go, let's go somewhere we haven't been before so we can experience something new together. And there's a different kind of value to that versus going to the same coffee shop for a cup of coffee every week. Not that the one doesn't have value, but it's also interesting to think about which are your friends where, if you think about the experiences you've had, are very often different and new experiences, because that's a richer kind of background that you're building over a long period of time versus the same kind of experience on a regular basis. And I'm curious to know whether you have those kinds of relationships. I've got friends that I know, it's like, you want to go for coffee? Cool. We know where we're going. We know what we're ordering. It's the same thing. And that's okay. We have other friends where it's always new and it's always a different experience. And that gives a different texture to the relationship.
Yeah, so certainly. So you have context friends, right? Some friends are built out, and some contexts could be, I think they're like ritual friends, to Matt's earlier word, and adventure friends. And some friends you're there because or familiarity and adventure. So the one is because I want a degree of familiarity. When we meet, we know we're going to do X. It's kind of the same thing. If I go to one restaurant, I'll always order this pizza. If I want a different pizza, I won't go to that restaurant. I'll go to a different pizza restaurant and I'll order something there, because if I'm at like Primi, I always got the Recco, pasta thing. And I think you do want to have those things. And I think that we maybe get too, not to diss the ritual friends, the familiar friends, but I think we get too stuck into them. Listen, guys, in the last few minutes, I had an idea. There's the Acquired podcast. They end every show with a little bit of a share one kind of book you're reading, new shoe brand you found, anything, like just a little takeaway that you have. And I thought I'd like to share a couple of those and then hand over to you guys as kind of an outtake, if you will.
Yeah, cool.
Go a little takeaway. So the first thing is I've been using, do any of you guys use voice to text apps on your phone?
Yes.
Or on your desktop? Like Whisperflow or Fix Key or Super Whisper.
Yep.
I've been leaning heavily into those, and I found it to be absolutely game-changing. Super Whisper allows you to do a whole bunch of customization. So if you're in an email, it knows there's an email context. If you're in a WhatsApp message, it knows that. And it's very, very good. And you can set up, you can do so many things. But even just using like Fix Key or Whisperflow, they allow you to just to be so lightning fast. You hold in your FN key, you speak, and then it just appears. I reckon I'm shaving 50% off almost every form of previous written communication that I was doing. Game changing. And then the second thing I wanted to recommend is a book. I'm doing the audiobook and I'd highly recommend it. I'm maybe halfway through it and I'm just loving it. And the reason I bring it up is I didn't like the guy. I almost read it because I didn't like him. The dude's name is Gary Stevenson. And I'd seen him on Diary of a CEO debating, and he was the kind of Brent?
Sorry, he's the finance guy. He's the
finance guy. He's the British Londoner finance guy. And he's kind of fuck the man debating the entrepreneur and the entrepreneurial class. He's the working class guy's billionaire. And at first I thought he came across as a bit like he's trying too hard, showing up in his tracksuit pants and slouching. And so I didn't like him on that show. I thought he just came across as belligerent. Now I'm listening to his book. It's called The Trading Game. And I'm absolutely loving it. And I've not got... Right now, it's an enjoyable book. I'm not sure if it's going to be a worthwhile book, if what I'm going to learn, but I would recommend it purely on the enjoyability factor. He reads it himself, and I now understand the guy a whole lot more. There's no bullshit. He is completely and utterly the working class guy who beats out the university students to become the better university student, to get the better job. And it's really cool seeing the story. So those are my two carve-outs. That's what they call it on Acquired.
I tell you now, what's worthwhile doing is go listen to Rory Sutherland tear him a new one. He's like, I don't care that he makes $2 million a year. Go and buy some bloody shoes. Put some money back into the economy. Exactly. It was very funny. Gents, the last thing I'll leave you with is as follows.
Where's your cover? I want to see. Do you have a gift for me? A tool? A tip?
So the only thing I'll say is that as follows. I think I told you I bought my little toy, the real one, a few weeks ago. the amount of pleasure I'm getting from a very manual machine, I cannot explain to anyone. If you think you want technology in your car, you are wrong. You want knobs and buttons and gears and noise and physical feelings. And that's my takeaway.
I love it, but I want the Polestar 2 electric car, buttons and tablets, and I like the sound of silence.
Not me.
Matt, my carve-out is I'm reading a book called Dirt Rich by a guy called Mark Podolsky. So it's all about land flipping in the US and how you can basically build. He believes it's the perfect business model. So it's quite interesting. It's a bit of a sales pitch, the book. That's the only thing I don't like about it. So he sells like what we were talking about earlier on, like, the ecosystem stuff. Well, I'll tell you how to do it. I've got the systems for you and blah, blah, blah. But what is fascinating for me to see is how much land in the US you can buy for almost no money. It's frightening. Like you can spend $200 for an acre of land, and and even less than that in some instances. So in theory, you could have a massive land fund, which when you basically buy it for less than it's worth, you flip it on these marketplaces. People buy the land, you make your profit, but then it's called owner's financing. So then the guys that basically buy the land, you basically get residual income from them over a period of time while they pay back the loan. And so what you are also looking for, like, there's tons and tons of landowners in the US where they have deferred taxes. They have huge tax liabilities, and they're just like, well, fuck this. I'd rather just get rid of the land. So they're motivated sellers. And the other thing has got nothing to do with social media. It's all got to do with direct mail. So it's quite interesting.
I love the fact that he calls himself an ambitious, lazy geek. Anyway, we're at time.
Yeah. Thanks, boys. Thank you. See you next week.
All right. See everyone else.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye.
Ciao.